Charles-Camille Saint-Saëns was born in Paris on the 9th of October, 1835, and he would lead a revolution in French music. So precociously talented was Saint-Saëns, he was called the French Mozart. He was playing the piano at 2, composing by the time he was 4, and giving public performances at 5. Not surprisingly, the Paris Conservatoire awaited, and then, still only 22, he was appointed the organist at Paris's Église la Madeleine. This was one of the most prestigious music positions in the country. Oh yes, and by now he'd already written 2 highly successful symphonies. Now at the very heart of old Paris, the great cathedral of Notre-Dame de Paris. The second half of the 19th century in French music is dominated by the remarkable figure of Camille Saint-Saëns, who was prodigious in every way, in his output, in his range, in his energy, a big man, a man of overpowered intellectual brilliance, a critic, an editor, a playwright, a pianist, an organist, and responsible for examples of almost every genre of music that you can imagine. Of chamber music, of light opera, of masses, of grand opera, and indeed, towards the end of his enormously long life, the author of the first film score, The Assassination of the Duke of Guise. He vigorously promoted the cause of French music and was himself a legendary performer. As a boy, his party trick was to announce to any audience for whom he played that he would play the Beethoven sonata of their choice from memory. He had all 32 Beethoven sonatas memorized and ready to perform at a moment's notice. Extraordinary. Professionally, Saint-Saëns could do no wrong. He went from triumph to triumph and was feted by everybody, from royalty downwards. He was in great demand internationally, and at just 33 received France's highest civil award, the Légion d'honneur. In stark contrast, though, his private life was a disaster. He didn't marry till he was 40. She was 19. The marriage soon floundered, and then, within weeks of one another, in 1878, both their children died. One of them falling out of an apartment window, the other succumbing to pneumonia. Saint-Saëns blamed his young wife. The poisonous resentment festered for 3 years, until one day when the couple were on holiday, Saint-Saëns abruptly walked out of their hotel room and never returned. Later in life, Saint-Saëns became better known for his rudeness, arrogance, and intolerance, but nothing could really detract from the immense contribution he had made to French music, reviving it after a century of indifference and taking it to the world. Saint-Saëns wrote the Introduction and Rondo Capriccioso in 1863, especially for the young Spanish violin prodigy Pablo de Sarasate, and it demonstrates the great skill he had for writing music which challenged both instrument and player, even one with Sarasate's skills. Here it's performed by Richard Tognetti for classical destinations. As a young composer, Saint-Saëns was regarded as quite a firebrand, a radical, a modernist. He was a disciple of Liszt and followed his cyclical method of construction in his symphonic poems, and was radical harmonically in all kinds of ways. Inevitably, as he grew into his great old age, into his 80s, his still very productive 80s, he became a very censorious critic of modern music, of its inflated nature, as he saw it, and was very fastidious, very French, you might say, espousing the classical French virtues of elegance, precision, understatement. And he felt quite militantly that music had nothing to do with emotion. Music was a scientific procedure, an arrangement of chords, harmonies, melodic structures, which would create a certain effect. It proceeded from the intellect and was directed to the intellect. In fact, of course, he didn't really live by that. Nobody, no composer of any worth could do, and the music has an extraordinary charm and inner vitality and tenderness often, and exquisite orchestral effects. He was an absolute master of any genre that he attempted. And it's true that maybe the music doesn't plumb the greatest emotional depths, but it'll always be played and always be attractive for its exquisite taste and touch. Whatever his views later in life, and Saint-Saëns was famous for contradicting himself, he did a huge amount to promote contemporary French music, paving the way for an even more innovative generation of composers in Debussy, Satie, Dukas, and Ravel.